what wisdom would you share with them?
I would highly encourage them to first feel secure in, to the best of their ability. No one's 100% secure. To recognize wherever you're at the moment, that's okay. And it's
Mhm.
okay to want to build and want to do more, and start doing your research, start exploring, start looking around, and realize that you only need the one job or
Mm.
the one spot or the one, whatever you're looking for. And so don't be intimidated by like crazy numbers of things, or people telling you the stats say, you can't do it. I think the big thing I learned in grad school that I would also pass on to folks is just shoot your shot.
Life gets tough, and I know it's hard to cope with the unknown. For all of us, I know it'd be easy if we were perfect, but we're not. So we go to find our faith, to find our hope. It all begins with looking up. It all begins with you. It's time to elevate.
Welcome to another episode of Time to Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Ann Lucente. Whether it's your first time listening or you've been along for the ride from the start, I am so grateful you're here. Today, we're stepping into a fascinating space where scholarship, theater practice, and human connection all overlap. My guest today has dedicated her life to exploring the power of performance, both in history and in our present moment. When I interview someone, I usually have met them before, or at least have a sense of how we'll connect. With today's guest, I had heard so many wonderful things about her through her parents, who are both amazing actors and voice actors. But still, until I actually meet someone, I never really know how we'll connect. But let me tell you, the moment we met, from a brief sound check, I felt an instant connection. She's the kind of person who immediately makes you feel comfortable and excited to be in conversation with her. But before I let you meet her, let me share a little bit about her story. She is the Assistant Director of Graduate Professional Development at UC Santa Barbara and a PhD candidate in theater, dance, and performance studies. Her dissertation develops new performance theories to better understand how English Protestant identity was shaped in relation to other faith traditions. Her professional background is just as wide-ranging, spanning higher education, student affairs, public school teaching, and art administration. She has also presented her research at national and international conferences, including the Shakespeare Association of America. Beyond her academic work, she is a theater director, playwright, and intimacy professional, with credits that stretch from Shakespeare adaptations to contemporary performance festivals. In 2022, she co-founded the Public Domain Players, a nonprofit theater company dedicated to making found theater more accessible, where she wrote, produced, and directed her play Finding Judea. And when she's not working, she's weightlifting, reading, or on the hunt for the best pizza spots in Southern California. So help me welcome the incredibly talented Grace Kimball.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Thank you for all those wonderful things you have. I was like, oh my goodness, I so want to do you justice, but I also want you to talk about a lot of this. So I'm happy to have
Sure.
you here. I'm so happy you're here. So I had this little epiphany, right? Which is so funny. Like when things just happen, you ever get this, like something pops in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, that so lines up with what I'm doing. But I so did not
Yes,
plan it, right? I didn't even think about it.
absolutely.
I love
Yep.
those moments, right? So my word of the year, because I pick a word of the year every year. Do you do that yourself? Have you done that ever?
No, I don't, but that's a lovely practice. I kind of want to steal that.
You should totally steal it. It's totally like great because every year is like the beginning. I just think I go like, okay. And the first thing that pops in my mind. So this year was and still is empowered for me. So I like empowered. So it turns out that the last 4 months of this year, um, and one that is dropping very shortly, are all empowered daughters. And so my theme
Mm.
last 4, as long as you don't mind because you're part of it, and it's a
Yeah,
surprise for
yeah.
everybody, is empowered daughters. So it's kinda cool. Yeah, it's kinda cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So you are in the series Empowered Daughters. So I hope you like it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a cool idea. I see where the epiphany struck for sure.
Right. Yeah, right? I'm like because it's just a different, and I'm looking back at all my guests, and they're all range from all different things, but then I'm looking at, like, the last 4 of you are in the same generation. And I thought, what a cool thing, because there's so many different things we learn from each other, and things that I never even thought of, really. From, like, my daughters, I'll be like, "Oh, that's really cool." It's like, you guys make, how we wanna improve the next generation? Well, it's working, because you guys have improved on so many things that I was like, "Oh, we never did that. We didn't do that."
But we couldn't have done it without the lessons of those that came before us either. Like it
Aw.
wouldn't be the same with either part.
That's true. That is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said, of course, I met, I heard through your mom and dad, so that's how I met you. Um, but here's the thing: I always go and I stalk people right before I do this. I go stalking and stalking all that. But you, my friend, are like almost unstalkable, and you'll be happy to know, because I'm like, I need to find some dirt on her. I'm not finding any dirt. So, so I am so looking forward to this, because I'm gonna have a lot of questions for you, because I couldn't find anything online, which is nice, right?
Pretty good. Pretty solid for me, not so solid for you, but but it's all good. It'll work out.
I did see all your, work you've done. I definitely saw that, but sometimes I like to find. So you're good. So if you don't mind, are you okay picking an angel card?
Sure.
And I'll shuffle, and you tell me when to stop, and it's one word, and then you tell me when to stop, and I'll just
Stop.
okay. Oh, and I'm not lying. This is like my favorite word in the world. I don't know if it's going to be yours, but it's my favorite. It is. I don't know if you can see. Can you see it?
I can't quite see it.
Okay, I'll tell you. It's joy.
Oh, that's lovely. I feel like that's a good pairing, grace and joy. That's good.
That's true. Oh my God. Any other significance for you other than the obvious of what joy is?
Um, I think it really speaks towards what how I try to live my life. Rather than thinking about like the idea of pushing for happiness. I think people can get like overwhelmed with an idea of an idealized ending to something, but joy is about living in the moment and celebrating what means something to you. So for me, I think that speaks towards how I try to live my life.
I love that. Yes, I think that is so true, because you're right. You can find joy in the moments. It doesn't mean that, because I lean towards the positive in life. I don't force myself. It's just what I do. I could be in the worst situation. I'll be like, but, blah, blah, because it's what I like to do. So it doesn't mean joy and happiness does not mean everything's just falling into place and everything's wonderful. It's just that life is full of that. I like that. Very nice.
Exactly.
I like
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. And it does go perfectly with your name. So before we start getting into, you and all the cool stuff you do, let's talk about you for a minute, like where you grew up, where you're living now, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was born in Beverly Hills, California at Cedar Sinai, as many wonderful people have been or have passed at Cedar Sinai in the Los Angeles Sea. Um,
Yes.
about 7 hours before the Northridge earthquake. So my parents were still in the hospital when a massive earthquake hit. And I feel like that's always spoken to kind of like the Grace, or at least my parents always say Grace came in with a bang. Like, but yeah, yeah. And I mostly grew up in Southern California until I moved to Virginia when I was in high school, which was a pretty big shift in climate.
Wow.
And eventually I would make my way back to California, and now I live in Santa Barbara near the university where I'm both a student and a professional.
That is wonderful. I love California. I've only been twice or once? Actually, I went once, but I extended the trip, and I love it. When I was in high school, and it was like way back when it wasn't always the big reach. It was always like, I want to go to California. I want to go to college in California. I did not, unfortunately, but but I love it. It's wonderful. So, why don't you walk? Because I wanted to know about your journey, like where it started, and I could be wrong because you didn't let me stalk you. But like your theater. So in school, is that where all your theater and performance started when you were in college, younger? Like, tell me where it started. Like, what was the defining moment where you kind of knew or were headed in that path, that direction?
Sure. Yeah, I always say I grew up in a theater household. So, as you know, my parents are very much into performance. And so from age 5, um theater was always a big part of my life. From kind of then on out, it was musicals were played in my house. My dad used to show me clips from Into the Woods recordings and Sweeney Todd recordings and things like that before I would go to school for the day in elementary school. So it was a really big part of my growing up life, and I would start getting involved in theater myself, at about age 5, when my parents directed a variety show at my elementary school, and my class did the Mickey Mouse Club song, and I feel like that's where it all started, really.
Oh, wow. I love that's so great with your parents, because yes, I know them and they're like, I love them. They're just like amazing at what they do. And it's just so great to have that right there for you. And you just, I guess, seamlessly went in that direction then, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, absolutely.
so, so from that point, so I'm assuming that you got involved in all that kind of stuff in elementary school and then went on to further and high school and you just kept bringing this with you. Did you kind of know this is what you were destined to do? Like you wanted to do this, keep going? Was there anything ever that you thought of besides doing this?
I actually took a huge hiatus in high school. And I decided to be an athlete and go for the athlete life for quite a long time. And slowly, when I went to college, it started trickling back in, not from the performance side, but from the literary side. I was an English major in undergrad, and I started gravitating just kind of naturally towards performance text, not necessarily thinking because it was familiar, but because it was just genuinely interesting from a different angle to start considering why playwrights were making certain kinds of decisions. And then, but I do think in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, well, okay, how does that play out? What do you mean this happened this way? Pirandello, 6 characters in search of an author. Like immediately, my brain goes being like, how do you stage that? What does that look like? you know
Right.
so I think it was always a factor, but it was definitely more on the literary side of things. And so it was a break. It was quite a long break, but the farther I pursued in terms of education, the more I noticed it crept back into my life until I realized that there was just an unavoidable urge to return to theater. And when I hit my started my doctoral degree, particularly post pandemic, I went full throttle back in, both from the artistic side and the theoretical side. And it never quite leaves you, is what I learned.
Right, right. Wow, that's powerful. I really love that. I love that. So, um, and jump in and add anything else if I skip too far ahead and do things like that because I wanna know everything. I wanna know
Sure,
everything.
sure.
So, you went okay, so you if I'm correct, so it's like early modern studies, right?
Yes.
What captured why that? Why did it just because? Like, what was your reasoning?
I think it's a question I've asked myself many times too. um, because I think a lot of people's reaction is a little like, why then? Why not? If you enjoy the artistic side, why aren't you doing more contemporary works?
Mm.
And I think the seed was planted many, many years ago. I saw my father in Shakespeare in the Park, in
Oh.
Comedy of Errors. And even as a kid, oh gosh, I can't even fully remember how old I was. Maybe 5, 6, like very young. I was fascinated by how this very strange language, even though I didn't understand every word, could still convey a very clear story, one that I was enraptured by. And of course, dad being, an exceptional actor, playing, one of the twins,
Oh.
just he was dynamic. I still have memories of it to this day, maybe slightly scaffolded by photos more than my own memory. But
Yes.
but but I went back and I saw that performance multiple times. I
Wow.
adored that work. And from
Wow.
there on, I think it just always lingered in my mind that there was something unique about
Mm.
works from that period. Mostly Shakespeare is what I was introduced to, but as I got more theoretical and started specializing, I started realizing all the works from the period had something really dynamic about them because of the way they pushed themselves in a
Right.
period where they didn't have a whole lot to work with all the time, and yet they would create these insane ideas for plots of people dying in these crazy insane ways, and again, how do you stage that? Who knows, but it's
Right.
it's up to you to pick it up. And as a contemporary theater maker, those plays are just full of wonderful fodder for possibilities. So as I continued studying the works from the early modern period as a contemporary theater artist, I realized that there was just so much potential to not only capture what's within the text, but also to make it your own and to readjust. And that's kind of why
Right.
I like public domain works. You can have a lot of fun. You can use the plots and take a few liberties and still try to figure out what message you want to convey from those kinds of works.
I love that, and I do like it's so funny that I love it's just I love Shakespeare, okay? I don't it's not like I know a ton about it, but I know all through school, I loved it. I almost felt like I was a little that you're like a little kid, right? So you understand what they're saying, but you don't really, know all the words. Does that make sense to you? Like, I would hear the
Yes,
language and be like, "I totally love this," but I can't even really tell you what words they're using, but I totally got it. Like, it's so funny, and I really,
exactly.
really enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it's so cool. So it's very cool that you dove deeper into all of this, and that's really cool. Um, so if you so I don't know if I should jump ahead. I don't know where I don't wanna jump ahead. So teaching and all that. So how did this come? You tell me. So you got into all this part, right? And I know you do teaching and mentoring and all that, but was playwriting and theater in between all of this before you got to where you say at this point where you're doing mentoring and teaching? And tell me where I'm gonna let you tell me. How did it all evolve? What happened?
Sure. Yeah. So I knew when I went into my undergraduate degree that I wanted to be an English major, but my parents, being very savvy humans that they are, said, "Okay, but make sure that you can get a job with that degree that you're going to get. If you're going to do English, figure out what you want to do alongside it to help
Mhm.
support yourself." And I decided to go down the teaching credential route, and I ended up really enjoying it. I really love imparting wisdom to people, and I gain as much from teaching as I hope my students gain from my actually conveying the information.
Right.
And so that just kind of combined, and throughout the years, they constantly intersected. And in a lot of ways, I think directing can be very similar to teaching. So it scratches a similar itch for me, as does
Mhm.
the later trajectory towards professional development. And I've found over time that I'm really clearly leaning my life into finding ways to help people advocate for themselves, to challenge themselves, to question things, and to really pursue their passions while also being as stable as possible in every
Oh
other
gosh.
capacity.
That
Yeah.
is
So
that is wonderful. That's a wonderful thing to hear being stable because it can be so unstable in many genres, but definitely when you're in the creative field. That's really very cool. I like that a lot.
thank you. Thank you. Me too. It's been a good time, and I hope it will continue to be a
Yeah,
passion, but I'm also not afraid to pivot, as I hope I convey to the people I work with as well. Pivoting can also be a wonderful gift of stability and insight, and hopefully later some passion. So it's
right.
okay if it doesn't all go according to plan either.
Exactly, it's good to be open, right? It's good to not have blinders on and just want because 'cause you'll miss a lot of the good things that are on the outside that could be a different direction or whatever, which is very cool. So your teaching started now am I correct that it was different, ages? Like, was it, like, younger, like 7th graders? Am I correct with that? And going all the way through graduate? Like, where did you
Yes, yes. So when I was an undergraduate in college, as I was getting ready to be a teacher, I did, the classic kind of summer camp, summertime job route. So I worked
Mhm.
with kids as young as 5, and quickly figured out very cute, not quite what I'm looking for. um, and I did student teaching in high school, and I was like, okay, this is closer, because as I've kind of gone down towards the PhD route, kind of reiterating this trajectory, but I like conveying and mentoring the information, but I also love the information in and of itself. That's part of the passion. I have to really believe and find joy in what I'm conveying. So, and I just find the things that I was conveying to the 5-year-olds were more about, basic socialization, when I really wanted to talk about books and performance and things like that. So
Right.
I did teach middle school for a period,
Hmm.
one year, and learned a lot.
Middle school,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
yeah,
brave.
yes. It was, and it was scary. It was very scary at the time. It was a big
Yeah.
challenge for sure.
Yeah.
And I would later teach high school for 3 years, and then as
Mhm.
part of my doctoral degree, it's how you handle, finances with the university. You end up teaching as part of it, and so I did that for a time, and then when I transitioned to this role, now I solely work with graduate students.
Okay, great. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Do you find, like, are there similarities? Like, when you like, if you go from, like, 7th grader to graduate student, like, do you find that there's any similarities at all, like, that just kinda evolved into that, or are they completely different?
There are just a couple things, and I would even go so far as to say there are certain qualities that you encounter that are
Mm,
just people stuff, not even necessarily age stuff. And the biggest carry through, I think, is everybody's just kind of trying to find their way and feels really uncertain and just wants to be noticed in some
right.
way. And that will carry over any age I've ever taught, from 5 to graduate students.
Yes.
Uh, it's kind of, we all just want to be noticed. We all want to be generally liked,
Mhm.
and we feel deeply insecure that we may not have any of those things, or may not have the expertise we claim, or anything like that. So that
Right.
carries through. The stakes get a little higher, certainly, as you move
Yeah.
forward, but it's
Yeah.
it's kind of all the same throughout all the ages on that one.
That's really cool, and it's good to have someone like you there to do this. Did now, was this something that existed, like, this position, or was it, like, your idea to be like, "I wanna be a mentor for this? Because I never going through school, of course, it's a whole different, generation, but to have someone like you in this position is wonderful, because a lot of times it was like, "Oh, that's not a place to go if you're gonna go even, into the arts or anything like that." So, was that position existing when you got there, or is it something that you thought of?
The assistant director of professional
The
development role,
Yeah, and, like,
or
and you're mentoring people. Did you morph that position into what you thought it needed?
I'm still fairly new to it, to be honest with
Okay.
you. I started it in January, and it was a position that existed. My current boss actually previously filled it, so we
Oh,
kind of
okay.
shuffled upwards. I was a career peer within the office, and my boss then, and then my current boss now, kind of started talking to me and saying, hey, this might be a good fit. It was a little unusual at the time, because graduate students can't usually work full time
Mm.
within the university. So there were some administrative hurdles to get through.
Right.
But now that I'm in the position, I think my supervisor and I really work together to figure out what graduate students need, especially
Mhm.
in this unique sort of moment. And then from there, we cultivate programs that, workshops or informational materials or things like that, that hopefully speak towards helping them pivot in the ways that they need to, and develop themselves, even if they're realizing as they're about to cross the doctoral or master's degree finish line, that the world might look a little different than you expected when you started this 2, 3, 4, 5+ years ago.
Right, right. Yeah. That's great. That's a great resource. I love that. Um, so we're gonna pivot a little to, like, playwriting in the theater company, right?
Sure.
So tell me about that, like, starting the theater company, just that whole story. Like, where was that that was 2022, correct? That you started the company?
Yes, yes. Well, it feels like a lifetime ago at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It came from initially a graduate course that I was in. There was
Ah,
a colleague that I'd only taken maybe a class or two with. She was in a different department, and we she had an idea, and she won't mind if I shout her out. Hi, Olivia.
Great.
But but Olivia had done a undergraduate experience where she had helped run a student-based theater company and had started recognizing in her time at the university that there wasn't something like that for graduate students. There was a theater department, my department, but it was primarily catering towards BFAs in acting and things like that. So the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities for graduate students were limited, and doctoral degrees in theater, unlike an MFA, for example, are very theory based. So there are no requirements to do actual performance as part of that degree. So she realized I was really into this, and I was directing a production called Hamlet's Big Adventure, a prequel. And she heard me talking about it in class one day, and she decided to approach me and said, "Hey, I have this idea to like run a theater company. Do you want to like figure out how to do this?"
Wow.
And the whole summer we spent figuring out how to start a nonprofit in this particular area, and how we would do it, and where we would do it, and how we would fund it. And from there, we started the ball rolling. We started off with a 48-hour theater festival as our first trial, which was a trial.
That's wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Ah,
And very very small in a found theater space. There's, it was not meant to be a theater by any means. It was a concrete box, pure and
oh,
simple.
wow.
And no stage, no anything, no lighting equipment initially or anything like that. And then we realized that we needed to do a full play if we were going to do this, and we debated what it would be. And I said, I think I have an idea. I've been working on something, and it's going to be a push to finish it in time, and it totally was. And so I knew it would not be its final form, which I think is many years down the road for sure, because it's a piece that requires more nuance, more thought. But I I said, if you want this to be the first one, I will finish writing it. I will direct it. Olivia, you produce it, and we'll go from there, and let's cast it.
Oh
Let's
my
see what
gosh.
happens.
Oh my god. So tell me about it. Is this the tell me what it is.
This is Finding Judea.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And it was a play. So originally, this was based on an early modern play called The Tragedy of Miriam. It has a longer title that's mildly not kosher nowadays. Um, and it's in its original form, it's a very problematic work in a lot of ways. It's very much about ideas of um, Jewish people, and some being fair and some being darker skinned, and it's very cutthroat and a lot of death. And the language, it was initially a closet drama, which means that it was not meant to be performed on the stage. It was just meant to be kind of read in small settings. So the language is incredibly clunky,
Mm.
with big long chorus passages and obvious monologues and things like that. And for some reason, I picked up an article. I think a professor had assigned it to me, that someone had really analyzed like why this play was so strange and so kind of clunky and problematic. And I, for some reason, I was like, I think I can adapt this.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
yeah, I it was kind
Wow.
of a surprise to me and everyone else too, that that was the play I chose. But from there, I started writing, and seeing what I could do. I initially stuck with the original text and quickly realized it just wasn't feasible. It was
Mm.
just the text as it is for a contemporary audience just didn't feel very interesting.
Okay.
and
Okay.
and
Yeah.
some scholars will fight me on that. So like I'm prepped, I guess, but for that statement. But
Yeah.
it just didn't really feel like what I wanted that to look like. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started building the world a little more and trying to consider what statement do I want to make through this work? What iteration of this do I want to look at in
Mm-hmm.
particular? And so I slowly rewrote the play and introduced a lot more scenes than were initially present. A lot of the second and third acts of the play, because it's a 3-act piece, although only one intermission. You're welcome, audience. uh you, so a lot of act one, which is by far the longest at this point, is things I created based on how I understood the characters and how and why a lot of the characters are very I find a lot of the characters in the original to be incredibly unlikable.
Oh, really?
And so
Okay.
that was a challenge to figure
Yeah.
out how to reconvey it in a way that was like that made people want to stick around for
Right,
what
right,
happened to these characters.
right.
And then I slowly developed this idea that I felt like the original work was very claustrophobic.
Okay.
And so I realized I had this imagery, and it was around this time that I think some like Amazon strike was happening. And so I started thinking that this should be done in like an Amazon warehouse scenario. Like this idea that these people are trapped in an apocalyptic world where they're in this concrete box all the time, quite literally too, because in the found theater space, it
Mm-hmm.
was basically a concrete box. So I took that quite literally and built the play into the space. And was like, what would happen if like all these class dynamics and this crazy weird plot, happened in this world where like there a lot of these people's jobs is like folding boxes. Like what would occur? And if you go outside, you die immediately. Like what
Oh
happens?
my
And
gosh. Yes.
and that's the play.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. And then to like intertwine everything together. That's very amazing. And this
Thank you. Thank
oh,
you.
and did you do it more than once, or was that the time you did it? Is it like, did you film it? Like anything after that? Like, is it somewhere where it can go on and on?
We filmed bits of it, but we were so new as a theater company at the
Right.
time that, like, frankly, the footage isn't fantastic.
Mhm. Right, right.
We have some pictures just by sheer will of all of us pulling out iPhones at different points, being like, "Gosh
Right.
darn it, we're gonna get something." Posed pictures and things like that, just trying to get
Yeah.
anything because our lighting equipment was we ended up trying to sort something out. It was incredibly new. We had a
Okay.
really not beat up board, but it was not like the
Mm.
best of the best. I mean,
Right.
that space was not well suited
Right.
for what we were trying to do. So we did 3 performances in one weekend, and
Wow.
and that was it. That was the capacity that I think all of us had just starting out
Right.
to do anything, and we learned a lot, and we were like, well, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Um and hopefully maybe someday it'll be picked up again. I want to edit more.
Right, right. Yeah.
Now that I've seen things and learned things about myself, about my vision.
Mhm.
There's, in a space where you can have like a permanent set. So like every night we had to tear everything down
Oh, wow.
every single time.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so our set was incredibly limited at the time, and eventually we would learn from that experience too of like what would be feasible to when we
Mhm.
wanted to build something, what we would do from there. But
Right.
yeah, it was very short lived, but and the theater company kept going, and we would do the Tempest literally like a
Yeah.
couple months later,
Oh, wow.
uh and
Wow.
just go from there. But very challenging, very very challenging. Very
Mhm.
happy I did it. But
Yes.
if you want to talk about the stress of a tech week,
Oh,
that was like
I
unreal.
can only imagine. I can't do lighting in this booth, stresses me out, just trying to get it with glasses and this and that. I can't imagine
Yeah,
doing that lighting in a place that is not even called to do that. That's just amazing. And, so now is this theater company still going?
it's still going. I have at the time I was also directing and writing this, like I was also a co-artistic director with Olivia. So we were also doing all the back end things of
Yeah.
like, cultivating the season and like doing all the nuts and bolts of marketing until we like
Wow.
got a board together, to have folks help us out. But
Mhm.
I was the artistic director with Olivia for 2 years, and she is still doing it. Bless her, good for her.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that level of labor anymore. And I
Yeah.
started realizing, like, if I don't kind of shift my
Mm.
trajectory, finishing this dissertation is going to be incredibly difficult. So it was more a recognition of my own limitations rather
Right.
than a like I don't want to do this anymore, or the company's just falling apart. They're
Right.
doing wonderful things. They just did a adaptation of Antigone just this past year, so
Oh,
they're still going strong, still
yeah.
cultivating all the wonderful things that the nonprofit can do and creating
Nice.
wonderful accessible experiences. Every performance we have ever done has been entirely free with that
Oh,
company, which is
wow.
very difficult to do to figure out how to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that has to be, yeah, seriously very difficult. And that's really wonderful. And in life you do figure that out. You're like, I love this, but I need to, just reevaluate, take a different shift in my life. And that's what life's
Yes.
about, right? All that. Um, and so now as far as directing and doing that, you did it all with this company. Are you still doing any kind of on your own, doing any kind of directing in other ways or outside of whatever. Oh, you tell me.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, as I was kind of finishing my stint with this company, I was also starting to do other things, and I slowly got involved in the world of intimacy
Oh,
choreography and directing.
yeah.
As kind of a tail end, and it ended up coming in handy with the company as well, because Olivia really wanted to do an adaptation of the Spanish tragedy, which has an incredibly brutal scene of a hanging on a
Oh,
stage, followed
okay.
by a parent grieving, plus a tongue being bitten out.
Oh,
And
wow.
there were a lot of things which normally I would have collaborated with a fight choreographer to do a lot of that. But
Yeah.
in a small company, you deal with what you can do. So I was called
Mhm.
in for a lot of stuff like that, and
Wow.
I ended up doing some other intimacy work as well. And I really started doing more of that than the actual full out directing, because
Right.
I we're in a very, Santa Barbara is good size, but it's not Los Angeles. So
Mhm.
the number of intimacy professionals out here is incredibly limited, and I really wanted to gain experience. So I started working on more interdepartment projects and stepping in to help the undergrads, because I felt like they really needed it the most. They needed
Right.
somebody, on their side, because it's a great department, but there are a lot of, power dynamics when you do
Mm.
student productions. The directors are often professors, and you get a grade for the class, and your fellow actors are your colleagues during your other courses, and it's
Mhm.
incredibly complex. And I so enjoyed my time. I worked on a production of Hay Fever, which was lovely and fun. I ended up working on a production of Indecent, which is famously known as the first lesbian kiss on stage.
Oh,
So it
really?
was, yeah, yeah. So it was really lovely to embody that and work with
Wow.
actors. Also, famously ends with it raining on the stage itself, which
Really?
is very difficult. Yes, yes. We had a
Yeah.
very talented group of people. I think it's one of the only productions
Wow.
I've ever worked on when the crew and production team outweighed the number of actors in the
Wow.
show, like,
Oh.
considerably, to make that work.
Oh, wow. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Oh my gosh. That's wild. That's really wild.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was it
gosh.
was fascinating. And now that I have a full-time job, plus
Right.
I'm trying to finish out this dissertation, my time is limited. So I'm on a little bit of a hiatus, but
Just a little bit.
hopefully
Just a little bit.
just a teeny bit, just a teeny bit. But once I'm done with this all full speed ahead.
That's it. That's it. And that's what's wonderful. You're still keeping your, like, toe in these things, so you're like, "I'm just gonna do more of that," you know? Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
that's really wild. I had never heard of intimacy direction. I mean, it makes sense when you're talking about it. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that I just never even realized that was a thing, you know what I mean? Which I
Totally.
think I think is really wonderful. What are, like, the things so being an intimacy director, like, I don't know, tell me a little bit more about it, because for someone who doesn't really know what the process is.
Sure. Yeah. So there are a couple of different groups that offer forms of certification. So I did my first certificate with intimacy directors and coordinators,
Mhm.
and and just, I guess, moving a little farther back to give larger scope of like why this exists the way it exists. This is from a post, a sort of a Me Too movement type of thing, as well as it stemmed from the pornography industry in Canada. And they were really, in Canada, they were the really ones, moving and grooving. And that's where we get intimacy coordination from, is folks who are creating boundaries as well as
Mm,
helping with like any intimacy issues that could come up in terms of contract negotiation of what actors are and are not willing to do,
right,
and how to help people feel comfortable during takes and decide who is
right.
present in the room. And so from there, we have the American iteration. We all still have intimacy coordinators, and we see those
Mhm,
in all sorts of works, Bridgerton and things like that. Often we'll have someone like that.
mhm,
And then we also have the intimacy direction side, which is
right,
the theatrical side. So folks like me will be called in more frequently for a work that has like a big intimate act. That's generally when people most get called in, is like, oh, okay, someone is, masturbating on the stage. Someone is
right,
like doing some sex
right,
act. There's some sort of assault or things
right,
like that.
right.
Like that's when folks usually get called in, but that's not quite all what we do. So a lot of what we do is try to help mitigate the power dynamics that are within the production in itself, kind of like what I was
Mhm,
talking about with my department, of just recognizing like, hey, there's like a lot of baggage that goes into people being people around, doing this show. So just keeping
right.
everyone aware, helping people convey their boundaries and to what extent consent and boundaries can change throughout the process, to actually choreographing certain moments of intimacy. And intimacy can be pretty broad ranging. It can be anything from those huge dynamic moments to moments where characters feel like they're exposing a past, or there is like really like awful language sometimes, or it can be a pretty
Mhm,
wide variety of circumstances. And it can also be dependent on actor needs, something that someone may not feel needs an intimacy director involved. It could be just something that an actor really wants someone on their
mm,
side
right,
advocating for them. And say, I've worked on productions where actors were asked to kiss multiple times in a scene, and one of the actors didn't feel comfortable doing any kissing. So
okay,
what do you do?
right.
Well, a lot of different things you can think about, but particularly since it was a contemporary work that we were
Right,
covering, you can't change the script. And it was
right,
inherent to the work. So, in an ideal universe, people call in someone who is, an intimacy director, and they should
mhm,
always have some sort of certification. I'm still working on like my extra level,
right.
but I've done one already.
Okay.
But yeah, in my free time. But
Yeah, I don't know where that's going.
me neither. Me neither. But it's all good. We'll get there. We'll get there. But
Yes.
in an ideal universe, someone would call us in when even the initial production decisions were being made, of being like,
Right,
hey, is this right for the people that I'm going to work with? Right?
right,
Is
right.
And then when you cast, intimacy directors can help you write the casting call so everyone knows, like, okay, this is what's going to be in the script. If you don't feel
Mhm,
comfortable with this, maybe this isn't quite the part for you, you
right.
know? And then once people are cast, which is more often the time when the intimacy director gets called in and you're like, okay, this is
Yeah,
rolling, then you try to figure out how to do it. So,
right.
in that example, we did a lot of subtle placements of thumbs to, create a barrier.
Okay.
We did a lot of stuff between, like, behind a sheet, so we did silhouettes.
Okay,
So
okay.
you have to get pretty crafty
Wow,
sometimes.
yeah, really? Wow, that's really amazing. Like, I now that you're saying it, I see how that's so important, but I wouldn't even think that, you don't even think it, and then when you see things put together at the end and you're watching the performance, you don't think of how much really goes in before that and behind the scenes. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So, I know it's not, you're not going to have a typical answer to this probably, but I was going to say, what does a typical day look like for you?
Nothing. There is no typical. Every day is wonderfully and brutally different.
I can imagine. Okay, give me one day. One day,
Okay.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with a not overwhelmingly busy but still busy day.
Okay.
And by that I mean not a day where I'm hosting a huge event for 500 people, so we'll put that one aside because that's an
Yes,
oddity, I guess.
yes.
But usually my day goes something like this. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And I go to the gym for about 90 minutes. I come
Nice.
home, I get ready for my day, and I go into work. I try to get to work. I have to be there by 9, but I try to get there in somewhere between 8 o'clock, 8:30, because I kind of like to just be
Mm.
in my space without anyone else coming in. At 9 o'clock, I open our office to students coming in from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I start doing whatever is on my task list for my professional development job. So could be anything from, two, three, four, 5 meetings, or just going through a to-do list, creating marketing for events, coordinating with participants, or anything like that. And before I know it, in the blink of an eye, because it's so gosh darn busy, my day is done.
What time of day is that?
Usually,
When are you done?
so I close the office at 4, but
Okay.
depending on how much I feel like I want to get done, that 4 to 5 is like kind of my shuffle hour of figuring out how to close out any tasks that are really essential for the day. And
Mm.
I make it home usually by 5 o'clock. And then I decompress as much as possible. If I'm
Yeah.
having a very social night, I might have plans to go out with a friend to do something in Santa Barbara. But otherwise, a lot of times I'll come back, I'll cook dinner, I'll prep for the next day, I'll decompress. I start my bedtime routine at 7:30. I read in bed for from about 8 to 9, and then from there I go to bed at 9 o'clock.
See, this is where you're not the first person I've talked to where you're not the first person I've talked to who was like, "This is the routine," and I keep saying, "I just gotta get up earlier," and I've tried. I don't think I could do a 4:30 though, because I do like to, unless I can, I like the later night too. Not late, but I like the nighttime routine too, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't think I can go to bed that early. So I just but getting up early is so productive. So productive. All right, Grace, I'm gonna try again to do it. I'm gonna try to get up earlier.
It's not for everyone, but I do find once you find just a routine, even if it's not that early, that's really the battle. If
Yes,
you can get yourself in bed and ready to go at some like consistent time, I think that's where the success is. So it's okay if you're not the 4:30 type. Not everyone is.
that's true. I could probably do a 5:30 though, but then yeah, 5:30, maybe go to bed 9-ish. I might be able to do that. We'll see what happens.
Give it a go.
I'll give it a go. I'll see what happens. I'm gonna let you know. So let's see. I wanted to ask you. Oh, so I have a signature question that I like to ask.
Sure.
So can you share a moment in your life or career, it can be personal life or career life, when you had to show resilience or experience divine intervention or had to pivot in a big way?
Hmm. I think one moment that I really had to show a lot of resilience in particular was teaching middle school, I think.
I
Um, I yeah, that was I did not expect to teach middle school. My license would allow me to teach middle school, and I had a really hard time getting any job that year, fresh out of college. It was tough. I don't think as tough as it is right now, but
Mm,
it was very, very tough.
mhm.
And I ended up getting a position maybe a month before school started. I lived in Northern Virginia. The position was in Maryland. So that was going to be a 45-minute commute
Okay.
yeah, every single morning. And then I was told that I was given the position and I would be a co-team leader of the 7th grade in my first year of teaching, which was
Wow.
highly unusual. Um, that I don't think that really had happened very much before. And as I went through the year, it was a lot of adjustment. It was a lot of students who had a number of them had been expelled from other schools.
Wow.
And I taught digital literacy, which was a class that didn't really have a huge curriculum. Basically, the class was keep giving them projects.
Oh,
And that
geez.
was the course. So that was incredibly challenging. And
Wow.
then my co-team lead was unfortunately very ill throughout the year.
Oh, my goodness.
And around the same time, I was told that I was expected to basically coordinate a field trip for the entire grade.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, yeah. And it ended up going very well. We ended up taking a trip to DC, and which most of them had never been outside of Maryland before. And they a lot of the students had very, very difficult home lives in different ways. So we went to the Smithsonian's, and I invented an insane plan that I don't know if I would ever repeat in my life, which was to help them rotate between 3 different museums in their respective group throughout the way.
Wow.
uh and
Wow.
um and it was a wild experience, but I think that whole year tested me in ways I didn't expect. I felt very tested when I did student teaching. I was in a very difficult circumstance then too.
Mm-hmm.
But being an actual full-time teacher and then doing all those things in my first year on top of, the commute and the field trip and all that,
Oh, my
it was
gosh.
an incredibly challenging year, and one that I didn't even expect to be in entirely. I expected to teach. I didn't expect to teach middle school at this particular institution.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was incredibly challenging. But I walked away from that experience after a year, and I ended up moving to California like within a week of finishing that school year, just by sheer happenstance, not running from not running from Maryland.
It's going to go as far as I can possibly go from this.
I was like, nope, not today. But I think that was one of those experiences that just teaches you. And everyone always said to me, "Oh, that was trial by fire. Now you've got this." And it's really true. It's really true. When you
Right.
have stuff like that come up in your life, you're like, "Oh man, that was hard. Would I go back and do it again?" I mean, I do it. I wouldn't ask for it necessarily,
Right.
but
Right.
man, I was reassured that I could do a whole lot no matter what came my way. And I think those years of resilience, those moments of resilience that you
Mm-hmm.
encounter, they
Mm-hmm.
really teach you what you can persevere through, and not only persevere, but maybe even shine a little bit in ways you didn't expect. I didn't quite expect that it would go like that, but every night for like the first month, I would go home and dread the next day. It was incredibly challenging for me as a person. Um, and by age 23, at the end of that year, it's like, okay, I guess I've done it. And the next school, you know what, I gotta tell you, didn't seem so bad. It didn't seem so hard.
That is perfect. That is so perfect. And to say, gosh, just everything that you said, and just to even see the parts where you did shine through it. I always feel like when you go through that fire, you come out the other side, you're so much stronger. So much
Yes,
stronger, especially at the moments when you're like, I just can't do this, but you keep going and you keep going. And that is truly amazing. It really does set the tone for you, for life, for other things that come up.
yes,
And when you know that, like, you'll be like, this is a situation that I absolutely don't want to go through, but I know that I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to get there,
exactly.
whatever. You might not know how. I've done in my life where I'd be like, I don't know how I'm getting to the other side. I just know I'm getting to the other side.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Because, sometimes, and for me, especially in that moment, taking this job, recognizing, I was like, oh man, that commute's gonna suck. It just flat out. It was just gonna not be great, and I know tons of people do way longer than that. But for me, who had been in college, kind of being a skip, hop, and a jump from whatever you needed to do on campus, it was pretty jarring. It was pretty shocking, and
yeah.
it took a lot of my energy and time. And um,
Wow.
but absolutely, you just realize you can grit your teeth and you can get through, because frankly, what other choice do you have?
Exactly. Exactly. Because quitting's not an option. The quitting is just
Nope,
not an option. Oh my
exactly.
gosh. So, I don't even know if there's anything I was gonna say, "What's next for you, Grace?" But gosh darn it, Grace, you're doing a lot of stuff right now. Is there anything that you haven't told me that you're doing that you're thinking like, "I'm gonna do this next in my life?"
Oh gosh. I mean, Honestly, I mean, at this moment, I'm really trying to just enjoy what's right
Mhm.
in front of me. I've spent a lot of my life looking forward and doing goals, and I can't stop. Frankly speaking, I blame my parents for that one.
It's their fault. It's
They
their
were
fault.
very, yeah, they were very, goal-minded people, and
Yes.
no, I really thank them for it, honestly,
Oh,
because
yes.
it's gotten me through a lot of recognizing when hard moments come up. It's only right now, and there are wonderful things ahead, and you can always make it. So there's something wonderful ahead in your own way. It's always possible. But for the moment, I think I'm trying to enjoy my position. I'm trying to enjoy finishing my dissertation on a work that is a deep, deep labor of love, and also moments of like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I feel insane. But
Yes.
but it's a and I'm just enjoying this process and just trying to just get through, but also take the time to say, this is good. This is
Right.
nice.
Right. That is nice. I like that. I do. I like that. Being in the moment is something I've been working on for a couple of years. Like be in the moment, be present, be present.
Yes.
And I find that I've gotten to the point where I can be present and not be like, oh, a million miles away. But I still am a goal setter as well. I'm a goal setter, but I don't want
Yes.
to I used to overload myself so that you're missing what's happening, you know? And it's so
Yes.
important. You want to have goals, but like you said, it's so important to enjoy this time and work on this time, in these moments. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you don't want to make goals that feel unreachable, because then you feel like you're not good enough either,
Right.
which I see that a lot in my current role. I see a lot of
Yes.
people who make huge goals
Yes.
for themselves of finishing entire doctorates in 4 years, and
Oh my
things like that.
gosh.
And sometimes, it's not anybody's fault, and especially not the person. Sometimes just life doesn't pan out the way you think. People have life happen to them. People maybe
Yes.
enjoy their research more than they thought, and they want to put more time and care. So if you hold yourself to these goals that feel so constraining, you just
Mhm.
sometimes you limit yourself and you forget, like, right now is really good though. You're
Yeah.
getting somewhere where 2 years ago maybe you didn't think you would be there.
Right. Exactly, exactly. Oh my gosh, that's such great advice. I love hearing that because we forget when we're in the midst of something that we can't do or we think we, can't do. And then we start like and comparing to other people. I heard somebody once say like stop comparing, like, say, I don't want to say weakness, but like your weakness, something you're new at. You could comparing your weakness to somebody else's strength. So you're like, but you don't even know what it took them to get to that point. So you think like you just can't be that or you can't do it. And it's like, stop comparing. There's no comparison. Compare yourself, like
Right.
compete with yourself. Compete like I'm going to be better at this, like, in a year or whatever. So much better than doing that. Um, so if someone was listening to this, right, and trying to
Yeah.
find, say, their own voice or a calling or, what wisdom would you share with them if they're like, I know I have these desires, but I don't know which direction to go. Like, where do I start? What do I do?
It's tough because it always feels different for everybody, but I would highly encourage them to first feel secure in, to the best of their ability. No one's 100% secure, but
Right.
to recognize wherever you're at the moment, that's okay. And it's
Mhm.
okay to want to build and want to do more, and start doing your research. I feel like this is the PhD side of me as much as the professional development side of me that comes out. Start exploring, start looking
Right.
around, and realize that what you're looking for so often, you only need the one job, or the one
Mm,
the one spot, or the one, whatever you're looking for. You only really usually need one. And so don't be intimidated by like crazy numbers of things, or people telling you the stats say, you can't do it. Oftentimes there are opportunities, and I think the big thing I learned in grad school that I would also pass on to folks is just shoot your shot.
right.
Honestly, that's the
Right.
biggest advice I can give anyone. There have been countless times where there's been an opportunity, and my gut would say, you're not ready. You're not worthy. You're not this, or you're not that. You're not what they're looking for. They're going to think you're silly by applying for something. But honestly, it would
Mhm.
turn out later I was the only person who tried. I was the
Ah,
only person that just rolled the dice and went for it.
yeah.
So I would highly encourage people, throw out as much as you can that inner voice that tells you like, no, you can't. There's not, you won't get the slots because the stats say they're terrible or whatever the case may be. Just go for it.
Right.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Because, you don't know all the circumstances. There's a lot more at work than you often can see. And frankly, you only need that one tiny thing or whatever the case is. You don't need everyone's job. You don't need,
Right.
you don't
Right.
need so I would say I'd like to think that's my optimism plus realism type of approach, which
Mm-hmm.
I find is at least over the past 5 years, 6 years or so,
Yeah.
it's worked quite well for me. So I would highly encourage
Yeah.
other folks, as they're pursuing things, do the same and give it a go. And the worst that can happen is somebody tells you no,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't get it this time, or and that's okay. No
Right.
damage.
Right, right. I love that. It's so inspiring talking to you, Grace. You're just so
Thank
inspiring.
you.
Seriously, because we forget, and especially nowadays, a lot of stuff, even like myself for being, work from home, like working in a booth and doing things like that. You're in your own head sometimes where you're like, you
Totally.
could totally mess yourself up in there, So
Yes.
it's really nice to hear things and to be like, that's why it's so important to stay connected, even in
Totally.
situations like this. Yeah.
Community and realizing this, like the situation you're in, of being like, I'm in a bubble right now, 11 o'clock at night, maybe not the best time to think about the future plans. Like, and rely on
Right.
your community. My
Yes.
family has been my bedrock throughout some of
Yeah.
my life changes. They really have been. And
Yeah.
not everyone is as fortunate as I have been to have, a family set up like that, but
Right.
there are found families, and gosh,
Mhm.
I've seen some great ones. So I
Exactly.
highly encourage folks, if those uncertainties are eating you alive, find your people.
Yes.
Just put
Yes.
yourself out there.
Yes, that's great advice. Yes. I love that too. I totally love that. Is there anything that we didn't touch on, I didn't ask you that you'd, like, love to add or share at the moment?
Nothing immediately is coming to
Okay.
mind.
Oh, good. Then even though I didn't overstalk you, we got some good stuff there.
We got some good. Yeah.
Ah, so to close things out, do you have a favorite quote or mantra for me?
Yes, absolutely. It was very easy when you asked me to find a quote,
Oh,
because I have one tattooed on my arm.
do you?
I do. And it is a slightly shifted but almost accurate Sondheim quote from Sunday in the Park with George. And it is, art is what you do for yourself. And I got this tattoo to remind myself that ultimately it is about, as we talked about with joy, it's about what you're doing for you, how it resonates with you, and how it brings you satisfaction and all the wonderful things. So art can feel,
Yeah.
whatever art you're creating can just feel like, oh, everybody's judgy. But ultimately, I always look at my bicep when I need a reminder
A great
that
reminder.
that yeah, that this is for me,
Right.
and
Yes.
whatever you create, it's ultimately for you, because otherwise, like, kind of, why are you doing it?
Right. Oh, I love that. That is great. That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. Oh my gosh, just rejuvenating me today talking to you. I just love it because there's so many things that
Thank you.
I want to do as well. Like in my life, I have that, and even like art and drawing and things like that. And I just signed up for like a mini course, and I'm like, I must be out of my mind. Like, where am I putting this?
No,
And so, just you saying that is so true. It's like that creative side of me. If I push it away because I'm like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I just feel differently. I don't
totally.
feel as energized or as full, or whole, I should say, so thank you for that. 'Cause I love that. I love that.
Absolutely. I
Oh
love
my
that you're
gosh.
taking that.
Uh, so
That'll be great. And then
yeah.
years down the road, you'll look back, and whether you keep up that particular thing or something else,
Right.
it's part of your journey. It's
Right.
part of, and you're like, I learned something from this, because guaranteed you will. Whether
Right.
it's the art stuff or or other things, you'll learn something, and it'll just grow to shape you.
Yeah. life is weird like that, isn't it? You're like, I just did
It
this little
is.
thing and now I've just learned this humongous thing I never knew about
Exactly,
myself. I learned more
exactly.
about myself. Do you feel I feel I learned about myself more in everything I do, it's so funny. Oh my gosh, I can't thank you enough. This was so amazing. How can people find you if they want to reach out to you or connect with you or
Oh, wow, okay.
if
Yeah,
you want them to? I mean, you don't have
sure,
to.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
have to. Okay.
You can I think the easiest is you can find me on Instagram at the Grace Kimball, because there's only one. Not really. I don't know if that's true actually,
I
but
think
you
I
can always
honestly just found today I was like, I didn't even connect on and I found you today. I was very happy about that.
yeah, feel free. I have to admit I am a terrible updater of Instagram. I also have a website that I'm terrible at updating too, gracekimball.com. But folks are always welcome to reach out. I'm happy to chat with folks.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, when would you have time to do updates on
I don't
anything? I mean,
know. I'm not sure, but
no, no, but your website and your
and
Instagram look wonderful to me, so it's nothing to
thank
worry
you.
about. So, yeah, it looked really wonderful. Oh
Well,
my
and
gosh.
if I get more followers, then maybe I'll be inserted in the schedule.
Right. That's right. You can only do so much, Grace. We can only do so much. Oh my
It's
gosh.
true.
I thank you so, so much for being here. I'm so happy to meet you. I'm really happy to spend time with you. This was just amazing. I hope you enjoyed your time and everything else.
I absolutely did. Thank you so much for having me on, and I look forward to future episodes with your daughters.
Yeah, yes, yes. And I'll give a quick shout out to Victoria Lynn Purdy, my daughter, who wrote and sang and created the theme song for Time to Elevate. Yeah, she's
Yay!
one of the guests coming up too. So I will be talking to you very soon. All right. Bye.
Fantastic. Bye.
Bye.
Life gets tough, and I know it's hard to cope with the unknown. For all of us, I know it'd be easy if we were perfect, but we're not. So we go to find our fate, to find our hope. It all begins with looking up. It all begins with you. It's time to elevate. We sing it loud and proud. We make our voices known. Nothing can shut